This is Jesse Goldberg-Strasser with the Lansing Lugnuts, joined by a member of the 2012 Lugnuts, one of the best Lugnuts teams in team history. Andy Burns, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing real well. You and I had the chance to catch up in spring training. It was really good to see you. I want to bring you back to when you were playing for Lansing. All right, you played 2 years at the University of Kentucky. Then you transferred to Arizona, but you hadn't played. You had to sit out a year because of the transfer, and the Blue Jays drafted you. So I remember you came in, you had played the half season, your professional debut, but you were still saying, I want to shake off some rust. And you looked great in 2012. What do you remember?
Man, I remember a lot from that year. And I mean, that being your first full season and the excitement of that and the 140 or 44 game grind, whatever it was that year. I mean, that's what baseball is all about. And we had such a special team that year, great coaching staff. And, you know, there's so many great memories from there. And not only from baseball side, but a personal side. I met my wife in Lansing. So Lansing will always have a special place in my heart and our hearts. And, you know, there's so many good memories from that year.
No team in Lugnuts history has ever won more games than that 2012 team. They set all these records that still stand. Did you realize in spring training how good you could be?
You know, I think we were all aware there was a bunch of talent, but I think, especially for me, only having a small taste of what professional baseball was, it was hard for me to gauge just how good we were going to be compared to other guys in low A. And, you know, I think we went out there and we won the first 7 games or something like that. And, you know, you look back and you see the names and it's not a surprise now looking back that we were as good as we were, but it didn't take long for us to realize that we had a special group and, you know, and a lot of guys that are still playing. I think that's the beauty of how good that team was, is there's still guys from 8 years ago that are still in the game.
Well, looking around, okay, Noah Syndergaard, maybe you could have taken a guess. This guy's going to be a major leaguer. Or an Aaron Sanchez, this guy might be a major leaguer. Marcus Walden has found a home in the Red Sox bullpen. Kevin Pillar has gone on to have the kind of career that he had after he won the league MVP that year. But then much more than that, could you have said, just pointing to guys, major leaguer, major leaguer, major leaguer at the time?
I think, you know, we had a good group and we worked our butts off. And I think that's, you know, a big reason why there's so many guys playing. But, you know, John Birdie is probably, you know, he was in my wedding. He's one of my closest friends. You know, and we kind of pushed each other and he was obviously a great leadoff hitter and could steal bases and like you said, Pilar and, you know, we had other guys on the team that were great team guys, very talented. I think you look at Kevin Patterson, you know, with the big power, Kenny Wilson, fast player, Chris Hawkins, you know, he found a way that year to get it done. I mean, I think he hit 300 on the year. Carlos Perez behind the plate. I mean, the list just goes on. And you know, once we you know hit our groove and we just kept pushing each other. And I think, you know, it was so upsetting that season was cut short for me with an injury. And it would have been so great to keep that team together for the full season. But obviously minor leagues, you know, some guys go up and they get replaced and that's just kind of the way it is. But for the time that I was there until I got hurt, which was early July, it was so much fun and winning games and just great bunch of guys.
Now it's 8 years later, but are there any stories that you remember from that year that you could tell?
You know, I think just to begin with, I think the Crosstown Showdown is such a fun game. I mean, you have, you know, you got the band and the student section, the cheerleaders there, and it was, you know, the night before opening night, and it's just it's a fun way to realize how, you know, big that university is. And, you know, obviously my wife's a huge Michigan State fan and that's the team that we follow. But, you know, I think for me personally, thinking back, I think, man, I think the July 4th series, just because I remember how hot it was. You know, I think it was like 104 that weekend. But that was a fun weekend. you remember some of the cold games. Actually, one of the games that I remember, I actually didn't play in this game, but it was the night that we faced Bundy or Archie Bradley, and it was freezing cold. And I had to coach first base that night. And I'm like, I'm kind of glad I don't have to hit off this guy tonight, because there's nights where it gets cold, but that's, I think you just remember a lot more just off the field and the bus rides. And, I remember pulling into Bowling Green at 6 a.m. after a game in, I think we were in Fort Wayne, and we had to go to Bowling Green after that. And you're pulling in at 6:30 in the morning. We walked across the street for Waffle House for breakfast before, we went to bed for the night. So things like that, it sticks out to me.
Now, you were great for the Lugnuts. You had an OPS of 815. I'm looking over your numbers right now. You hit 248. The power numbers were there. And then the next year with Dunedin, you were better. OPS above 900, 327 average, and just chasing your career. All right, so Dunedin to New Hampshire to Buffalo. And then you make the decision to play overseas. What led to that decision?
I think, that offseason, I'd gotten to the big leagues in 2016. And then that offseason, the Blue Jays DFA'd me. And that was tough to go through. I think anytime that you get DFA'd for the first time, it's you realize it's a business, and that's okay. And from there, I made a business decision of my own and got the opportunity to, go overseas. And, what takes you over there in the first place is the salary. But, so I learned so much over there, and I loved playing over there. And, it's a really great league, and I'm glad people are starting to get to see a little bit of what that league's like. And it's hard to get the full effect without the fans, but, they play a great brand of baseball, and it's an entertaining league.
Before we get back to the KBL, about your major league tenure, what was it like being in the major leagues?
I mean, that's what you dream of as a kid. That's what you're always striving to do, is get to the big leagues, and to be able to say I got there and played in the big leagues. If my career ended today, that would be a heck of an accomplishment. And I think, I'm still fighting to get back to the big leagues and establish myself. And hopefully we can get back to playing soon, and hopefully I can get an opportunity. But, to be a part of that team, you're looking at a team that, they won the wild card and made it to the ALCS, and walk into a clubhouse with Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista and Encarnacion and Tulowitzki and guys like that. It was pretty surreal at the time.
All right, let's talk about the Lotte Giants, because you played 2 games in the KBL, or 2 years in the KBL. You're the power guy for them. What were your expectations of Korea based upon what you had heard?
I think the beauty for myself was, from the offensive side, I wasn't expected to do a ton. And I feel like I really found my way offensively there, just because I was given time to figure some things out. There's a bunch of great hitters over there, and I feel like I've kind of adopted their style of hitting and hitting philosophy. But, for me, the big piece was playing in the middle of the infield at second base, and contributing from the defensive side, contributing from bringing energy every day, good positive energy. And I ended up having 2 pretty good years there. And I think the biggest thing for me was, you go over there and you're expected to be the guy. And I think, when I walked in the clubhouse in 2016 in Toronto, and you look at guys who are the guy, Josh Donaldson and guys like that, and you kind of, in your mind, think that, you're going to have to emulate what those guys do, because you're expected to, being the only foreign hitter, you're expected to carry a heavier load and play well. And, it was a great opportunity to play in front of thousands of fans every night and produce at a high level.
You said that you adapted some of the hitting philosophies that you picked up there. Like what? What do you mean?
I think in Asia specifically, I think over there they play with velocity a lot more so than they do here in the States. Here in the States, you see a lot of just fastball slider guys, and those velocities are pretty similar. Whereas they're, that they'll throw a fastball at 90, and now that people know what spin rate is, they've always spun the ball really well. So even though it says 90 on the radar gun, it's playing up because they spin the ball well. And then they all have a 70-mile-an-hour curveball, and they have the split that is usually high 70s, low 80s, and then they got a slider at 85-ish. So you have to cover more speeds there. And so with their swings, they create more adjustability to be able to cover more pitches. And I think that's, for me, the biggest thing that I learned while I was over there is how to control my body in space and create, length in the zone. And you see all the big leg kicks and stuff like that. But that's their ability to control their body in space, and it's pretty phenomenal to be able to watch it on a daily basis.
You've played in Australia too, and I've heard that Australia is very much a big change of speeds league. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say Australia is definitely more of a breaking ball league. I think for me it was an awesome experience to be able to go over there and see the country and kind of miss a winter. And I know, the Michigan folk know how tough those winters can be. I've actually, we spent one winter in Michigan, the winter that we got married, and man, they said it was a mild winter. It was still cold. So, in Colorado, it's cold too. So it was nice to skip a winter, so to speak, and be on the beach for a couple months, because they only play on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that gives you 3 days to kind of do whatever you want. And, but over there, the umpires aren't very good. So, there's bigger zones and more nibbling. It was fun to get at bats. And I think it prepared me to, be ready to roll as soon as spring training got underway.
You've played in the U.S., you've played in Canada, you've played in Korea, you've played in Australia. I think you've played in Venezuela. Am I forgetting anywhere?
No, that's it thus far. I mean, I've had spring training in Japan and Taiwan, so I have been to both those places. And then this winter, I've actually signed to go play in the Dominican. So, it's one of those things where the more that I've been able to travel and see the games played in other people's countries, the more I've been able to pick up and put into my game. And I feel like, that's what's kept me growing as a player and kept me around the game as long as it has. And I think the more that you can learn and learn from, countries that have been successful in baseball. I mean, you look at Korea, they've won the Olympics, they won the WBC. They have a lot of pride in their baseball. And I think that's what you're seeing on TV is these guys can play and just being able to pick up small things here and there is, it's helped me a lot in my career.
Have you woken up early to watch some KBO action?
I'm more of a late night guy. So I watched the opener, which was on, I think, at 11 o'clock my time. So that one was pretty easy. Their Sunday games will be on at the same time. So I'll probably watch the Sunday game, which will be Saturday night here. And it's funny, I mean, getting used to the time change and like what my family had to go through to watch me while I was playing over there. My grandparents and my parents, they'd log in at 5 a.m, and then have their cup of coffee and watch some baseball. And, it's a good league over there. I mean, and you're seeing the stadiums, like they're playing in beautiful ballparks and like I said, if people could see how the fans are, I know they have the cheerleaders, going right now, and so you can get a little bit of a taste. But it's a special atmosphere, and looking back, a lot of memories were made there, as well as the Lansing Lugnuts in 2012.
You played for the Giants. Are you rooting for the Giants, or do you have friends on other teams that you're rooting for your guys?
Man, I think in general, I'm rooting for the league to continue to gain popularity. I think, I think for a long time, Asia was kind of a place where players went at the backside of their career. And I think you're seeing a kind of a change of mindset where it can be a stepping stone in a development standpoint to come back in the States and play well. I think going over there for 2 years, I came back and had the best minor league season that I've had in my career in AAA last season. So that's a lot to do with what I picked up over there. And yeah, I love Lotte. Their fans are unbelievable. I think they have probably the best fans in the league, and it'll hold a special place to me. So I'm excited to actually see Lotte on TV, because a lot of those guys were the guys that I played with over there. But I know the whole league. I love watching the best hitters over there, because I think they do a lot of good things with their swings.
There are more and more guys that casual baseball fans know about who've played in Korea. When Eric Thames came back, that suddenly put Korea on more people's radar. Have you had ball players ask you for your advice if they should go over?
I mean, anyone who's ever asked, I say you get the chance, go. Just because it's, it's not only from a financial side, but just from a culture side, learning how to live, being uncomfortable, and it not from a sense of, my apartment, but from the sense of how am I going to order food? How am I going to get around town, without being able to speak the language, and just being able to overcome those sorts of hurdles. It helps you grow as a person. And I think, it was a lot of fun over there. And I think one of the coolest things is you're a full blown rock star celebrity. And I think, you stick out like a sore thumb there, and that's, you can't go anywhere without being noticed. And the beauty of where I lived was literally, I lived right next to the ballpark. So I ate at 4 or 5 different restaurants after games, and all the fans were eating at those same restaurants after the game. And the amount of pictures and just people recognizing you, it's kind of surreal. And I think it's even crazier celebrity status than I think guys get here in the States. I think that's how big baseball is over there, and that's how how they look at baseball players is full-blown rock stars. But I learned I have so much more respect for the Latin kids that come over at such a young age. And I went over there when I was 26, 27. It was hard as can be. So I can't imagine what it's like 16, 17, 18. And then, you got kids going to Lansing, 19, 20, being out in the cold for the first time, you know what I mean? So, I got a lot more respect for what those guys have to go through.
Andy, it snowed here in Lansing today. It's May.
Yeah, that's tough.
About ordering food, how many languages do you now speak?
Let's see. Languages that I can order food, I would say 3. But over in Korea, I had a translator the full time. So if I ever needed to have a full conversation or needed anything, I had him there. And the one thing that I learned how to do pretty quick is order food, because for the first 2, 3, 4 months over there, I would have to take my translator everywhere to eat, and that bill it kept getting higher and higher. So I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how I can order my own food so I don't have to pick up his tab every single time.
We talked 2012 in Lansing, 2017, 2018 in the KBO. It's 2020. Where were you when you found out that spring training was getting shut down?
I was, it was a split squad day that day. And I was on the road at Pittsburgh, and it was, it's about as surreal as it can get. I mean, I remember being on the bus going to the Pirates in Bradenton, and obviously the NBA had just shut down. And that's when it was like, oh no, like we're probably going to be next. And I think, we went out to BP and things were normal, but people are checking their phones 24/7, just waiting to see. And then you saw the NCAA shut down, and you just knew it was coming. And I think, I didn't start that day, but I remember going into the clubhouse in the second or third inning, and it finally broke that they're shutting down the season. And we ended up finishing the game. And I think looking back on it, I was thinking, like, why are we still playing? But I'm so glad that we actually ended up finishing that game, just because I think it was nice to have those last moments. I don't think anyone knew how long it was going to be, and I'm hoping that the end is near. And I know personally I'll be ready to roll as soon as they say. So I think a lot of guys are feeling it right now. Like we got to get this thing going. We're ready to go. We're stuck up at home, and but when the time's ready, we'll be ready to roll.
How often do you talk to the other guys or text threads?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys are trying to do it as much as possible, just to try to keep some normalcy. I mean, I think you realize in this situation how much you love your teammates and you love going to the clubhouse every day, and you love hitting with your buddies and talking the game, and the competition aspect of it is, what a lot of guys are missing the most, just, being able to get in the box and compete against, the best players in the world. And I think that's, I assume that's what's keeping everyone driven to keep working out and staying prepared is once we can get going, to be able to put a show on TV for people to see. I think it's going to be great.
Let me wrap up with the question everybody's asking me, and what I'm sure a ton of people have asked you. How are you spending your time? How are you using this time?
Well, besides growing out my facial hair for the first time, working out. I mean, I think I found, it's not only because I have to stay prepared for baseball, but that's just kind of been my release. I've actually done a ton of lawn work. I think that's one thing that I did not realize, and I never had to do, right? I never had to do the spring lawn work because I was always out playing, and my family took care of that for me, while I was gone. And so I've been doing a ton of lawn work. I did some landscaping work. Hopefully it's not terrible in Michigan where people can get out and do some lawn work, but Netflix, I think everyone's probably watching Netflix. I've been through about all of them. I think one of the cooler documentaries is the Last Dance that's been on. I know a lot of people are talking about that, but for me personally, I think I don't really remember the MJ years. I was such a young kid. I started to remember a little bit towards the end, maybe in '98-ish, but I also remember having a Michael Jordan jersey. And so there was obviously something that I was doing that everyone was talking about, and to be able to look back and understand why he was the greatest, I think has been pretty cool.
Andy Burns, 2012 Lansing Lugnuts, major leaguer, KBO alum. Thank you very much for taking this time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and hopefully we can get back. And it's going to be great once people can get back in Cooley Law. And I got to get back up there. I was there before the renovations, and it was a beautiful ballpark when I was there. And I would love to see it again. We need to get back up there and catch a Michigan State game and go see Cooley Law again.
We will roll out the red carpet for you.
All right. Hey, it was great talking to you.
Go Nuts, go Nuts, go Nuts!